Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nandan Oktafarulia Shanti. I'm working as a researcher at the Statistics and Information Department at SESRIC. I would like to welcome you all to the online training course on banking, insurance, and financial statistics, organized with the technical support of the Department of Statistics Malaysia. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Attila Karaman, Director of Statistics and Information Department of SESRIC, for giving his opening remarks. The floor is yours, Dr. Karaman.
Thank you, Ms. Nandan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I wish you all a very good day. It's a great pleasure for me to address and welcome you all at this important and timed online training course on banking, insurance, and financial statistics organized by our center under its Statistical Capacity Building StatCaB program. I would like to extend our sincere thanks and appreciation to the Department of Statistics Malaysia for providing their support and valuable knowledge through their distinguished experts for this online training course. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has challenged our model of face-to-face trainings and meetings as authorities have imposed travel restrictions and physical distancing measures, which are increasingly stringent. However, in this time of uncertainty, I believe that this online training course will be beneficial for the future work of our national statistical systems and NSOs of our OIC member countries, especially for the topic on banking, insurance, and financial statistics. In addition, in pursuance of the relevant resolution items of the 9th session of OIC Statistical Commission, held virtually last year, recommending SESRIC to keep the virtual activities as a modality in its future plans for the statistical capacity building activities, and affirming that the activities conducted under the StatCaB program by SESRIC are based on the solidarity principle among the member states. I am pleased to inform you that this training is also live streamed through YouTube. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, through our triangular cooperation, it is expected that the improved knowledge on the collection, collation, and dissemination of banking, insurance, and financial statistics will serve as a mechanism to harmonize and standardize the production of relevant indicators, as well as to better plan the national development programs. I'd like to thank you all once again for joining and wish you all the success in your deliberations. I'm confident that the valuable experience and technical knowledge of Department of Statistics Malaysia, as well as the contribution of all relevant experts who joined this 3-day training course, will be instrumental to improve the national statistical systems of our member countries in terms of banking, insurance, and financial statistics. Thanks again for joining, and I wish you all a very successful training course. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for your opening remarks, Dr. Karaman. Before we start the training, I would like to invite all colleagues joining this training to open their camera for some family photos. We'll be waiting for you to open your camera. Miss Aida, could you please open your camera because I can only see a black.
Yes, I'm trying here.
Yes, okay.
I don't know why. I don't know why it does not appear there.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
So I will be waiting for more participants to join. Miss Parvin, apologize for. I think your camera is showing your background as well. Okay. Maybe you need to make.
Wait, just wait, please.
So I'm waiting for other colleagues. Okay. So we have more participants here, and we will be having good family photos. And I'm still waiting for Miss Aida. Okay. Miss Aida, can you manage? Okay, maybe we can take a couple of screenshots now while waiting for other colleagues. So 1, 2, 3, smile. Let me first save this screenshot. Let's take one more. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, that's perfect. And Miss Aida and Miss Parvin, can you manage to reset your camera?
Yes, please, just 2 minutes.
Okay.
There's something happened to her house. There's some shortage, some blackout because of the electricity.
see.
So never mind. Maybe later on.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
maybe the next session.
Yeah, maybe we can take another family photos in the second day if
Yeah.
she will be joining. So Miss Parvin, because we don't want to take another time for family photos, we can take your screenshot tomorrow. Will it be okay for you, Miss Parvin? I think she left. Okay, so thank you very much. You may keep your video on, or you can also you can make your video off. It's up to you. So as seen in the work program, now we will proceed to the main course of the sessions. The language that will be used during this 3-day training will be English. And now I would like to give the floor to the trainer for initiating the program. Mr. Muhammad Yazid Kasim, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Shanti. Assalamualaikum and very good evening to everyone. Hopefully you are in safe condition throughout the world. So it's a great pleasure to have this opportunity for Malaysia to be one of the countries that will be sharing our experience and our best practices related to compiling the national account statistics, particularly on the financial sector. When we compile GDP, I believe the original plan is to have our friend from Afghanistan. However, I'm very delightful that this session also involve quite a number of countries in the OIC. So I believe some of you may be a bit advanced in terms of the compilation of SNA. However, for the benefit to others, I think we can actually go through all the slides and during the session, hopefully we can share our best practices. And depending on the time, I think we are open for discussion, especially in terms of sharing our practice in compiling of the GDP, particularly on the financial sector. And I hope this session will be useful to everyone. And basically this session firstly was conducted last year with our friend from Brunei. So with the demand from SESRIC and also with the interest of the country's members, hopefully this session will be useful to everyone. So today's session will be covering 2 topics. We have already circulated the slides to the participant. And in terms of technicalities, I will ask Shanti how we should operate this presentation. Are you controlling the slide, or you will be giving me the role of host?
I already give you the role as co-host, so you can share your presentation from your computer, because it will be convenient for you to go on to the next slide or return back to the previous slides. And at the same time, if the participants has or would like to address some questions to you, they can, during the presentation, they can write in the chat box, and after you complete the presentation, I will bring the questions written in the chat box, or the participants can directly ask to you. They have the freedom to mute and unmute their microphone.
So can we start the session, or do we need some introduction from other country as well? So perhaps we can proceed to the presentation, right?
Yeah. For the list of participants, I will send you later on because I will take the screenshots of the list of participants from this Zoom meeting.
Right.
And most of them are from the National Statistical Offices.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, very good day to everyone. The first session will be covering an overview on System of National Account SNA 2008. And basically, we are preparing this slide actually for National Statistics and Information Authority of Afghanistan, but unfortunately they couldn't make it for attending this session today. Okay, right. In this first two sessions, my session will be introduced to participant about the background of what System National Account itself. So particularly because when we required to compile this statistical information, the basic thing that we have to know is basically to understand or to at least have some basics understanding about the System of National Account, particularly for Malaysia. We are currently on the SNA 2008, but I believe some of the countries still practicing SNA 1993. But for those who are still practicing SNA 1968, I think the concept is a bit different. So 1993 and 2008 by conceptually is having some similarities. So about this slide, in terms of economic activities, we need to understand what the economy is, and in terms of economic, we need to know about the level of production, and actually in terms of use and resources, we have to know about the production, who will be consuming all these products that being produced in the economy. Okay, this is the System of National Account. Basically, why we refer to this manual or the guidelines, basically in terms of standardization, to make it comparable, most of the countries are required to at least follow some basic fundamentals about the SNA. So as we can see from the slide, basically SNA provides a conceptual framework for and serve a guidance for national accountants. I don't know whether all of the participants are from the National Statistical Office or from central bank. Some of the countries, they are separating into quite a number of entities when we compile the statistics. I found some countries in terms of financial sector, they ask the central bank or monetary authority to compile. But in the case of Malaysia, the data basically from central bank and other financial intimidation entities, and the compilation works will be done by the National Statistical Office. And again, this accounting provides some central role in statistics. Basically, it should be in line with other manual as well. And in terms of in totality, when we talk about the set of information or statistics, I think we have to need some databases. And in terms of interaction between the economic agents as well as economic statistics, I think the SNA will provide you some comprehensive view of an economic activities. So I don't want to read this very tiny print about this evolution of SNA. But basically, it started way back in 1947, and in terms of the latest version of SNA, we have 2008 version. And currently, for your information, the UNSD, with the help of UNSC as well as the regional the Statistical Authority, we are currently updating the SNA 2008 into 2025. So currently, they are actively engaged NSO and Statistical Office in terms of what kind of improvement that we can have for the next version of SNA. So again, to make it standard, I think SNA is a well-accepted document. So in terms of internationally agreed standard, I think this is SNA basically is still serve a basic for most of the economic statistic compilation, especially during measuring the economic activity. And think again in terms of basic understanding about the accounting convention, this SNA provide very good basic. In fact, in later part of this presentation, I will also integrate it with some other major manuals and handbooks that required to be followed for the comparison of GDP especially. And then in terms of conceptual basis, this SNA provides some recommendation. Perhaps it just set a guideline. However, in terms of technicalities in details, we can look at the handbook, manual, or other conceptual guidance. So in terms of basic understanding about the SNA, basically it provides some concept, definitions, classification, accounting rules, and also compare the internationally agreed standard for measuring GDP especially. So we believe that GDP, every country having have their own standards, but however, the basic thing about GDP is they have to actually subscribe to the IMF standardization of GDP comparison. They have three categories, which is EGDDS, SEDDS, and SEDDS plus. Most of the developing country, including Malaysia, at least we have subscribed to SDDS. However, for those less developing country, they are allowed to follow the EGDDS guideline. And anything regarding the economic development, I think we have to ensure that all the statistics are internationally comparable, and that makes our ability to ensure that our economic analysis, decision-taking, implementation is in line with the international recommendation framework. And about the SNA itself, I think it's quite a thick book, 718 printed pages with 29 chapters. And also in terms of comparability, it serves as a guideline for classification, concept, and definition. And about the consistency, we believe that there's some identical values used for comparison purposes. I think we have two kind of values, nominal and current, nominal or current prices, and also another one is about constant or real. And for some of advanced countries, we have the GDP compiled in terms of the volume measures. And in terms of integrated framework, yes, SNA serves as a basic background, very basic or fundamental document to be followed. And in fact, it ensures the coherency and in the closed system of the National Statistical Office or National Statistical System that providing official statistics. So SNA talk about who are the players, what do they do, how is this measured, and how is this information presented. So basically SNA, the basic thing about SNA, the data or the aggregation will be presented in economic account. And in terms of the transaction and flows, will be explained in the next slide. But however, we have to understand that within the financial sector itself, we have to really understand what kind of transaction can be classified as a flow, or what kind of the financial asset, and then can be classified according to the stock category. And basically, in terms of economic activity, three basic things that SNA address is about the production, consumption, and accumulation. And it is very important that we know and classify institutional units with the perspective of institutional sector. Right. Technically, the SNA, or most of the major economic statistics will talk about quite a number of sectors in the economy. Basically, on the production side, this is about the value added creation. And then final demand is, we are talking about the final demand or final consumption, and also the external sectors. In fact, for the return to the factors of production, we are talking about statistics regarding the employment, labor force, unemployment, wages, and so on. Also, prices plays an important role in the measurement, because for those aware, in terms of GDP, we have to measure it in real value. or more precisely, we have to calculate the volume of this transaction. Also government sector and also rest of the world. For those for the benefit of the participant, rest of the world will be included transaction between resident and non-resident, and basically in terms of FISIM, we also have to take care about this one. Okay, there are still argument about is it GDP still relevant for today's monitoring of any economic activities? I would say yes. There's no substitute for GDP currently. However, there are some options for this statistic. They are going for beyond GDP statistic, and when we talk about the sustainability and so on, they are already embarking the SDGs measurement. However, in terms of serving the basic fundamental for economic statistics, I think GDP is still the main indicators. So in terms of macroeconomic indicators, it still serves as the one of the very basic statistics that requires by the country. And it's also a yardstick for the strength of the economy. We believe that during the pandemic and COVID-19, we foresee that the world economy shrank drastically in 2020, and the recovery also in the pipeline. However, it's really depending on the number of vaccinated person in the country, and also how we can curb the pandemic quickly. And also, it's become a denominator for various indicators, basic data analysis and forecasting for those researchers who are interested to have some feel about what will be happening in the future. And GDP also answers some basic economic equation about the economy, like a growth and also the level of economic size. So as I said earlier, about SDG, I don't want to talk about more about the SDG, but basically in terms of GDP growth, it was mentioned in goals number 8. However, as we all know, the integration between the statistics are really tense now, and everyone actually already adopted the 2030 agenda, and basically of the indicators are integrated each other, and depending on the priority of the country, I think sustainability goals will be one of the major policy that all the countries are looking for. Then introduction to SNA. Basically, in the SNA, we are covering quite a number of resources. So it's very, very important to identify what kind of resources that we have in the economy. Basically, we have human resources, produce resources, natural resources, as well as financial resources. So basically, this is more economic terms, but basically, when we managing the GDP compilation, actually, these 4 major resources should be supported by a standard or robust statistic that will be representing them. All right, just for some guidance, to have an integrated framework, we require quite a number of criteria, and we begin with the activities that are designed to balance resources. Basically, this classification will be about the major institutional sectors that we address in the economy. And then again, for the purpose of the policy making, this is important to them to know about the use, expansion, and improvement of resources. And to create a growth, basically, we need to increase production. And to increase production, I think we need adequate or sufficient resources. And in terms of improvement on the human capital, we also need to focus on the statistics about the human resources, such as labor force, unemployment rate, and then in terms of category, education, and so on. And we also need to aspire to preserve natural resources, sustainable development. So basically, for those who are embarked on the balance sheet or capital account, I think this one is really helpful. And beside that, we also some products that are related to the natural resources, like satellite account on the environment, on land, water, on air, and ocean. So this, just I said just now, the advanced statistics basically requires some basic data from SNA itself. All right. So in a diagram perspective, I think there are two kinds of transaction that registered in the SNA. So you have to know about the classification on flow. So the beginning of the stock at early period, it can be for those compile the quarterly GDP. You are required to have the stock at the beginning of the quarter and stock at the end of the quarter. For those who are only produce annual statistic, basically you are required to have stock at the beginning and at the end of the reference period. So in terms of production, this 3-day session, we are basically concentrating on the income on the production side, so and specifically on the financial sector. So quite a number of issues or challenges that we may face in the compiling of financial sector. And during that presentation, the following presentation, hopefully we can share with you some practical issue about the compiling of the financial sector statistics, especially measuring the GDP of financial sector. Right. So for those in advanced environment, they may have to know about another part of segment in SNA in terms of distribution and use of resources. So we have to identify the integrated consumption, final consumption, accumulation of the assets and the stock of financial asset and non-financial asset. Also about the perspective from the external demand, we're also looking at the exports. And in terms of knowing the net changes, we need to know about the other changes in volume prices. And yeah, for those advanced country, I think one of the most important aggregate that we need to know is the net wealth of the country. Okay. Okay, this is about the additional point from my early explanation about stock of resources and optimization of the use of resources. This is the key for development planning. So basically, the most important part is to know what is the level of your production or output in the economy. Okay. This will be answering a basic question about who own them, how much of this available and how used. What is the quality of these resources and where the ownership is concentrated. So it's important to identify the ownership of the resources. Basically, in the case of SNA, we need to identify the owner by knowing the institutional unit and institutional sector. And then it is important to know the activity of this agent or resources, who does what. Basically, as I said earlier, we have to know about the consumption, accumulation, and another one, accumulation. By what means? Basically, through what kind of statistical table that we may need to produce, and for what purposes. So is it for consumption, accumulation, and so on? We form in estimate of what? Basically, we have, in terms of SNA, we can foresee that in SNA, it was noted that in SNA we have two kind of accounting rules. So double entry and quadruple entry, but that one is a bit technical. However, we can learn it from other session. And for your information, the IMF Learning Institute also offering the online course on SNA in details. Okay, structure of SNA. So in the SNA, we need to identify 3 main blocks of entity. The first one is actors. So institutional unit, basically serving the units that form the sectors. And also in terms of industries, basically some countries refer it as establishment or business entity. However, some of countries may prefer enterprise. But however, depending on the practice of the country, the actors is really important to be identified. And these actors basically are doing only two kind of transaction to action, which is flows and stop. And also interactivity is if you can follow from the sequence of account, basically the SNA identify and recommended that in terms of activities, there should be in terms of production, distribution, use, and accumulation account. So these three blocks in the SNA basically will serve our very basic knowledge about how we should plan for data collection and also data compilation as well as dissemination. Yeah. So in terms of category of the boundary, in terms of nationality, we know that one of the major concepts that we need to understand is that these accounts are combined for resident insurance unit and grouped into subsets and subsets. And also depending on the priority of the country, we can have a more granular data or estimate according to regional or supra-regional level. So in terms of sub-country, basically it refers to the states or any provincial level, and supra-regional level is meant for there's some criteria in SNA that if you not able to identify clearly about the owner of the economic interest, I think still we can opt for categorize that activity for supra-regional level. Okay, this is depending on the ownership of the resource and also the production of these certain product or services. Okay, as I said earlier in details, here in this chart, actually in terms of characteristic for the financial and non-financial activity, they are sharing some similarities. They have created legally. They have to be engaged in production of market goods, and ownership is very clearly accrued according to the rules of the ownership. They would be able to keep a complete set of accounts. So I think this is challenge for certain countries, especially when we need to compile data from the primary data set. Maybe perhaps the accounting standard not matched with the SNA. And also the own asset independent of owner. So we have to differentiate between the owner and the person. So basically, we more interested on the economic interest rather than personal interest, and includes quasi corporation and cooperative. Basically, this is depending on the country's setup of the or managing their sectors or managing their business entity and other unit institutional unit. So, and the government, I think everyone is well understand about the function of the government, and the characteristic of the household basically composed of person or group of person with common kitchen. So includes unincorporated enterprise. They are basically the source of labor and major final consumer, and also include in the SNA we have to include household operated activities and include informal sector as well. So bear in mind in terms of calculating of FISIM or financial intermediate services indirect measure in financial sector, we have to in the SNA 2008 it was recommended that we allocate that portion of FISIM according to at least all these sectors. So I proceed with the other slide. So among the characteristics, I think we have to know that institution is entitled to own good or asset. It's very much depending on the concept of ownership that addressed by the SNA. It is able to take economic decision and engage in economic activity for which it has helped to be directly responsible and accountable at law. So basically, again, this is about the managing your business register and how you identify the economic activities in your country. And also in terms of ability to incur liabilities on its own behalf or take on other obligations. So bear in mind in the calculation of FISIM of financial sector, we'll be using both sides of the financial statement for income and expenditure as well as asset and liability. So compared to other sectors, the compilation of FISIM actually much more much more difficult or complex. I would not say as a difficult because it is a bit complex regarding the compared to other sectors. And very basic information, very basic fundamental things about these entities. We should have a accounting standard, and these entities basically referring to business entities should have a complete set of account. And for sure, financial institution in terms of ability to produce account, I think they are better compared to other sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, construction, and so on. So perhaps this characteristic or this quality can help or assist the national accountant or NSO to produce or to compile their statistics. Okay. So on the right side, I think industries are defined in the same way as ISIC. So the key point here is international standard industrial classification. So currently, the latest version is ISIC revision 4. However, we found that certain countries are still using the ISIC revision 3. But however, depending on the ability of the country to have the conversion, the most basic thing is that you have the ability to identify or to calculate economic activity at the establishment level, and later on you are aggregating it into an industries. So in the case of Malaysia, I think this is the standard, and the last one we revised in 2008, but currently we are also revising it for another level. So basically, because of we know that the economic activity is emerged from previous period. So hopefully, this classification will be set as a fundamental or set as a basic document to classify business entity into institutional unit as well as institutional sector. Okay, there are quite a number of concept that we are going to talk or to share. So basically, in terms of SNA perspective, we have to identify at least three concepts: economic territory, institutional units, as well as residents. So economic territory refers to geographic territory. So yeah, this is very important. Some countries have some classification or some territory that they are gazetted or treated as their own economic territory. So for those, let's say, for those who have some entities in offshore, so for those who really have advanced landscape about the financial sector, you have maybe an offshore financial center, for instance. And in terms of residency, the characteristic is about one, it has center of predominant economic interest in its economic territory. So avoid about the citizenship or permanent resident and so on. But we have to understand that we need to know about the center of predominant economic interest. And another side about the institutional units, as I said earlier, we are already covering it about the characteristic before. And what we like to highlight here is it's important to check and identify whether or not your business entity in your country have a full set of account that can really helpful for your compilations. Okay, extension to that slide basically is talking about the land area, SPS, territorial waters, maritime territory, and territorial enclave in the rest of the world. So demarcated lands such as embassies, consulates, military bases, scientific station, and so on. So basically, we can learn it in details by learning or by reading more details explanation in SNA. But however, as it's said as a basic concept about the covering of the financial sector as well. Okay. We are more interested about the location, place, operation within country, about residents' characteristic, intent to continue activity if it indefinitely or finite period, at least 1 year of time. So it is applied to for those for the person or entity or business entity. And for individual, basically, it will be attached to his or her location rather than the place of work. Okay. Production boundary, it is important to understand, to segregate between the other boundary. So it is understood to be a physical processes carried out under the responsibility, control, and management of an institution unit, which whenever the labor assets are being used to transform an input of good and services into output. So basically, this particularly we have to understand in the economy. We believe that everyone understand that in the economy you are producing two kind of output, which is goods and services. And then in terms of output characteristic, we know that it can be sold at market or at least capable of being provided by one unit to another. And another set of kind of output is additional market output. Basically, it belongs for government sector and non-profit institutions servicing household. Here, there are some goods and services that are provided for free to individual household or collectively to the community by government unit of NPISH. However, these activities included in the production boundary. We know that some of activities are excluded. For example, domestic services produced and consumed by household themselves without paying domestic staff. For example, our wife are taking care of our children, taking care of our elderly, preparation of meals, washing, cleaning, and extra by the household itself. And also minor or do it yourself repair and maintenance of durable goods and dwellings. Okay, so until we engage production processes or using some input to extract or to mine or to get any natural resources from its origin location, I think we still consider as nothing or no production. So in terms of natural growth of wild, uncultivated forest or wild food, so this is all the kind of item that we are considering as a natural resources. Okay. So however, when we deliberately felling of trees, for example, in wild forest, and the gathering of wild food or berries and also firewood count as production. So whenever inputs being used, asset or input being used for extraction or getting this item, I think that's the production will be accounted for. Okay. So about economic asset, it's important to understand about the ownership of right and economic benefit. So all these assets should be being used in the process of production. It can serve as a stock of value, and also in certain cases like financial asset, it may generate income, passive income to the owner. All right, financial asset and fixed asset, there are two kinds of asset in the economy. Basically, fixed asset referring to the physical type of asset. For example, machinery, equipment, and structures. And however, for the financial asset, we know that this is the one that really need attention, because financial asset will serve the income flow in terms of property income. And in terms of FISIM framework, we need to know that the details of our financial asset. So basically, in terms of data sources, it came from monetary authority or central bank, and also by the bankers itself. And natural resources, I think this is what having said earlier. We can quickly go to the another slide. So there we are about the classification of asset, financial, non-financial, and produce and non-produce. So non-financial basically are two kinds, produce and non-produce. So I would like to say about these activities or the recognition of financial asset in the SNA. So when we talk about the financial sector, we must be able to categorize this financial asset accordingly. So in terms of financial asset, the liability for one sided will be an asset for another sided. So we need to know about the basic deposits, loans, shares and equity, insurance reserve, other asset and liabilities. So this is quite advanced terminology. However, I believe for those who are interested or currently compiling this statistic, we really need to know about this basic foundation about the profit and loss and balance sheet of this financial institution. So without contingency liability, it is common for central bank, especially to hold monetary gold and SDR, especially during rights of NMF. So basically, in terms of financial asset, this is another kind of return that we need to know. And financial asset, nothing much we need to dwell, but however, we need to understand also about this categorization. So for your info, there are two kinds of non-financial asset, produce and non-produce. We have a fixed asset, namely tangible and intangible. For those who are advanced or compile the gross fixed capital formation, we need to also covering the software, entertainment, mineral expression that is categorized as intangible. And inventories, materials, and then basically stocks and so on. So in terms of balance, in terms of getting the exact numbers of the flow of inventories or the stock of inventories, we need to understand the categorization of inventories as well. And also in economy, SNA also recognize the valuables, precious metal that hold by the purchase transacted by many or by the all institutional sectors, especially on household side. And non-produce asset, basically we talk about a tangible, basically is given by the God, land, subsoil asset, uncultivated forest, intangible good and goodwill and leases. So overall, there are 14 set of account. However, this is not the purpose of the training. We just briefly give some insight about the sequence of account. So basically, we have some production account, which that will be the main account that we are going to talk about in 3 days session. And however, in some of our slides, we're also sharing Malaysia's experience in compiling this kind of account up to the capital account. So for your information, we are still developing the account number 11, 12, 13, and 14. So yeah, I think that's for the first round. Maybe I need to take a rest for 5 minutes, Shanti.
Yes.
To have some drinks, and after on we can continue with Q&A session, and after that we are continue with the other slides.
Okay. Okay. So we will be having a 5
Short
minutes break. Yes.
Right.
5 minutes breaks now, and because at the moment we don't have any questions written in the chat box, so we will be having the 5 minutes break as you requested. For the participants, please stay in this Zoom line, and we will continue after 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
So I'm reading the chat box. However, so far, no question so far.
Yes.
So I think this session will be very fast.
Maybe we can over the participants. If you have any question for the first presentation of Mr. Yazid Kasim, you may directly unmute your microphone and take the floor. Is there anyone? Okay, residents. Mr. Tahirul Islam, you may directly unmute your microphone and then pose the question to Mr. Yazid Kasim. Mr. Tahirul Islam, the floor is yours. Yes, please.
Yes, please. You have a question about the residency. Okay, please proceed with your question, Mr. Tahirul.
Hello, are you listening?
Yeah.
Yes,
Clearly.
we can hear you.
Okay. Can you show me the slide where you have explained the residence?
Right. So this is very basic one, not the detail as compared to IMF.
Yes. Just come back. Yes, this one. No. Next. Yes, this one.
Okay.
For individuals. I'm asking about for individuals.
Okay.
Please, one slide above.
This one. Ada, which place is that?
29. Slide number 29. Slide number 29.
All right. Just give me the
Okay,
slide number.
please
All right.
stay here.
Yeah.
Here, the last for individuals, location of his house and not the place of work. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My question is that if someone is living abroad and he is his main interest is his house, he is sending all what he is earning to his families. Although his stay outside is several years, not 1 year, restricted to not 1 year. He is living outside for 2-3 years, for 10 years, but he is sending whatever he is earning to his family, and his central of interest is his family living in Pakistan, suppose, in his resident country. So he will be whatever he is sending, he will be considered as a resident or not resident. His whatever he is sending will be classified in remittances or primary income account.
All right. So at the first place, the person should be depending on his status, whether he is the ordinary workers or the status, or whether he is a student or not. So basically, there are some categorization or treatment for this kind of residency for the person. So let's say for you are a student. So if you are a student, you are definitely a resident of Pakistan. However, if you
I'm
are
not a student. I'm not a student. Suppose
okay. If you are a student, you are considered the household of the host country, not your origin country. So the place of interest of this household is basically in your host country. So let's say your neighboring country, company B, let's say you are not the resident of Pakistan. So in terms of remittances, yes, the census will recorded in the primary income. And however, in terms of the rest, the productivity will be included in the country B rather than Pakistan. That's very clear about the definition of resident for person.
No, his main interest is his family who is living in Pakistan. Out 85% of he sent 85% of his salaries to Pakistan. His main interest is Pakistan, his family, and still whatever he is sending will be classified as remittances because he stays there for more than 1 year.
Yeah.
So this is.
However, depending on the situation, because I cannot answer perfectly about the situation. But let's say for example, our in the case of Malaysia and Singapore, let's say we are neighboring each other. So let's say this person working commute every day, so definitely it's a very clear case. However, for those who are still in Singapore for more than a year and they are spend much of the time commute every day to his work from the Singapore from living quarters in Singapore, he's considered a resident of Singapore rather than Malaysia. So that's more on the balance of payment side, but basically that's the basic concept about the residency for the person.
Okay, thank you.
It's really complex, Mr. Hirul, because depending on the exact situation, rather than I can give you the direct answer about it. But however, this is basic thing. The only exclusion is for students, let's say. So for student, because we may not know about his or her intention to stay or not in that host country. So we still consider as a resident of his nationality.
Actually, in explaining a resident, the word use economic interest, center of economic interest. The individual living abroad even for several years, but his center of economic interest is his family who is living in his country, like Pakistan. That's why I put this question. Okay, I clear.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. If we is there any question? There's another. Kindly explain the definition of resident according. Okay, already.
Yes, there is a question from Dr. Muhammad Rashid, again from Pakistan. The question is, kindly explain the definition of residence according to SNS 2008.
Yeah, in terms of resident, I think this session just give you some brief idea about the concept. However, in terms of in detail, we need to read together with the Balance of Payment version 6. However, I think based on this discussion, I think we already give some ideas about the residency. So the resident is important in SNA. When we want to segregate between the gross domestic product and gross national product. So here, when we compile the balance payment statistic, we have compiled a few set of account, basically primary and secondary. So this interaction between resident is a fine line to differentiate which the production of the being produced by the domestic economy or national. So in terms of terminology, the gross national product is refers to netting of this transaction inflows and outflow between the resident of a country with the other country. So the basic estimation about the residency. So I bring it forward because basically when we talk about the measuring economic activities, personally, particularly when we talk about this measurement about the differentiation between the domestic and national, I think we need to have this concept to be put in together. So basically, I hope I can answer briefly about the definition concept of a resident according to SNA 2008. Okay.
Mr. Mahmoud, can I ask you? I would just need the clarification of residence. You mean if somebody, for example, he lives in Pakistan? I mean, the residence is for example, he lives approximately for 2 or several years. For example, for approximately 5 years, he lives in Azerbaijan, but the main economic interest in Pakistan. So, meaning that he is the resident of Pakistan or of Azerbaijan.
What is his common place of work? His common place or his living quarters?
So, I mean, for example, the family is in Pakistan, right? His family in Pakistan. His economic interest in Pakistan. He just lives for 2 or for 5 years in Azerbaijan for earning, for example. What does this mean? He is the resident of Pakistan or Azerbaijan?
He's the resident of Azerbaijan.
Because at least because it's over 1 year, right?
Yeah, yeah. He just sending sending back some income in terms of remittances to other form of income that's like transfer and so on to his own family in Pakistan. So
Okay,
technically he is a resident of Azerbaijan rather than Pakistan. He is the nationality of Pakistan, no doubt. All right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, can we continue to the slide? Actually, I'm not very familiar with Zoom. How to get back to the original setup? Wait, so I need to
Do you want
open
to open a
another.
new presentation, Mr. Qasim?
Yeah, I need to open another presentation.
Yeah, you
Maybe
may close.
or
your
close the current one.
Yes.
Okay. And to reshare.
Mhm.
To share for another. Oh, okay, done. Can
Yeah.
we see it?
Yes, yes. You may make it as a full slide.
Okay.
Now it's perfect.
Okay. So I think this is we receive a question in advance. Basically, most of the issues may be well explained by this another slides. So in this session, we will be talking about economic territory, resident units, institutional unit, type of insurance, and institutional sectors in detail. So economic territory, I think everyone is understand that in terms of SNA classification, we have some kind of special treatment for national airspace, territorial waters, continental shelf, territorial enclave in the rest of the world, so embassies, military bases, offshore enterprises, and also free zone. So depending on the classification, I think every country has their own classification, but basically, I think this is one of the important concept that being addressed by the SNA as well as the Bureau of Payment Statistics. And then again, resident unit when it has a center of economic activity of country, location, engaged in economic activities and long period of time. So this is just a guide to ensure that we have at least some standard to ensure the concept between the residency between corporation as well as the household. And again, unincorporated enterprise, not quasi corporation, has same resident as household. Corporate branch or office engaged in activities for a long time is resident of country. It operates as quasi corporation. Owner of land building are deemed owned by resident. So I think this is one of the caption from the SNA. Again, it's depending very much on the location, engagement in economic activities at the host country, and long period of time. So basically, in terms of rule and regulation, most countries use a 1 year period as a base for determining the period of residency, or whether the company or the person is resident or non-resident of this the certain country. Again, sorry. In terms of institutional unit, we also have a social or legal unit. So basically, it's important to address that. Resident of the economic territory, capable in its own right to own asset or incur liabilities, engage in economic activities and interaction with other units, and complete set of account possible. So it's very, very important this set of criteria being addressed or being observed in the standard of cooperation for each country, right? Type of institutional unit, basically repetition from other slide, I think. So we have to understand the concept of household, corporation, quasi corporation, general government, and non-profit institution. So because it is important to address this one, because every single units have their own characteristic, whether or not they are producing a market on a market output. Okay. Sectors, again, I think I can skip this slide. Technically, we have to identify at least five institutional unit and recognized by the SNA. We have financial corporation, non-financial corporation, general government, household, non-profit institution, and rest of the world. Right? Okay, this is the simple table matrix that representing institutional units cross-classified by sector and type. Basically, we will have this one in your framework. So depending on the complexity and depending on how much detail you have in your country, basically we can have this transaction or these entities in the categorization of the sectors. So basically, this will determine your transaction. And basically, depending on the request of our users, your ministries, stakeholders, and so on, and also depending on the complexity of the data, I think this is the basic framework that being addressed by the SNA. So it's a bit technical here. However, the basic thing is you have to identify the institutional units concept first, and then compile it accordingly, according to the sectors, right? So it can appear in so let's say for non-profit institution, it can appear in non-financial corporation, financial corporation, general government, informal, NPI and NP by itself. Okay. Institutional unit cross-classified by sector and ownership. We can see from this matrix. Basically, on top of it is about institutional sectors, and some of the country have some interest to disaggregate this sector with the entity like public sector or national private sector, foreign control sector. So depending on the purpose of the statistic itself, and depending on the request from your government, from your stakeholders, this is an optional. However, for those who are quite advanced in terms of policy making, they have some specific objective by having certain policy development, special interest on certain areas and activities. Let's say you have some interest on public financial corporation. I think the National Security Office or the compilers have to be ready to have this kind of information, right? Yeah, in the case of Malaysia, we also separating it to public sector, national public sector, and foreign control. So basically, when you have a quite advanced statistic on ballot of payment, you may perhaps to have this statistic being canvassed carefully. So let's say you have to produce SITS or IIP, international investment position, service in trade statistics, and so on. So I think this very much depending on the complexity or how much advanced your statistical system is, right? So household, I think everyone is familiar too. It's a group of persons, share living condition, pool income, consume collectively some consumption item like housing, food, institutional households, and household unincorporated household in enterprise. So in terms of regime or output of financial sector, I think we're also covering this sector because they are the main consumer, depending on how much loan and deposit they possess. And household sector, again, according to the SNA 2008, the conceptually treatment that we have to allocate the fee sim calculated from financial intervention into such household sector. They are deserved to subscribe to services, namely lending and borrowing activities in the financial market. So household deserve to have allocation of fee sim from loans and also fee sim on deposit. So to make it more specific or more general, I think as a person we make loan from banking institution, financial institution to finance our living quarters, to fund our housing, to finance our purchase like vehicle and so on, and also some of others necessity as well. And at the same time, when we have a surplus, we deposited our cash, our money into quite a variety kind of financial instrument. Like we may invest in capital market, we may put it on the fixed deposit or keep it in our saving account and so on. So basically, all this transaction basically is involving massive data, I would say, and accordingly, the best sources of this transaction would be the monetary statistical authority or the central bank. Okay, they form as below. We have household can act as an employees also own account workers, recipient of property and transfer income. Basically, we talk about this one. It can be happen in domestic economy and transaction between your home country. Recipient of property income in terms of interest received and dividend paid out by all these financial instruments. Recipient of pension by the government or other private entity, recipient of other transfer from various insurance sector. So I believe during the pandemic, most of the government applied this concept. They are giving aids to household in terms of special fund and so on. So we, depending on the transaction, we can consider at the moment during the pandemic, the household receive much more transfer rather than during the normal years, let's say for 2019 and so on. Okay, on the part of demand side, we also play a role as a consumer. Supply level to production can engage in production, often coincide with family. But basically, during the household survey, we have to really differentiate between the concept of household and concept of family. Parent servant of household not included in household, borders not included, and members have claimed to the resource of the households. Institutional households, basically a person belonging to institutional household, members of religious organization living in monastery, convent, or similar institution, long-term patient in hospital, prisoners serving long sentences and retirement homes. So basically, during the population census and also when you applied for certain household survey, you need to really understand the concept of the household itself. And then household unincorporated enterprises, this is where when we come to the concept of mixed income, basically household can also at the same time produce some output. They also basically sell certain goods and services at the market prices. However, they are technically not involved in more formal activities. So some of the cannot differentiate between the salary and wages and their profit. So all this category basically we we classify them as a household unincorporated enterprises. Okay, depending on the ability to canvas or to structure these activities and this register, I think quite a number of countries having difficulties to have a solid registrar for household unincorporated enterprise. And then in terms of producing goods, so they have subsistence production, construction of own dwellings and goods for own final use. And in terms of producing services, let's say for example, unoccupied dwelling for those households that live in their own living quarters, and also domestic services of paid staff. Okay, corporation is completely a bit different from household. So basically they are formed based on the certain legislation created for the purpose of producing goods and services for the market, and then can be source of profit to the units that own them, basically entrepreneurship and also the stakeholders. And for those who own the corporation, do not incur expenditure on final consumption. Basically they are always engaged in the intermediate consumption rather than final consumption. Treated as a resident of country in which it's created or registered, surpluses of profit are redistributed to the stockholders. Oh, I got a message from. And any question just now? I had someone who would like to say something.
Yes, I also heard, but maybe we can keep it until the end of the
All right,
presentation.
sure. All right, thank you. Where's the last slide? Right, this one. Owner are not liable to pay for the liability. So conceptually, yes, because they have limited liabilities in case of bankruptcy and so on. So not the person being charged in the court, but the company itself. Owner exercise control through voting rights. Yeah, this is we can surely understand this one. Subsidiary corporation and corporation B is subsidiary of corporation if A control more than 50%. So in terms of practicing this ownership or this categorization, I think most of us believe that the majority will be 50% and above. And then corporation is shareholder or corporation B with right to open or to remove. Basically, it's depending on the practice. We have a special diagram for this one. Parent corporation produces and control other corporation. Parent corporation whose principal function is to control and direct group of the three are called holding corporation and holding companies. So basically, they're more on the hierarchy or structure of the conglomerates, I would say, businesses. This is particularly important when we compile GDP, bill of payment statistic. And in terms of GDP, we have to really classify separate activities exclusively for the corporation. Okay, so in the SNA, in the ISIC revision 4, we have special categorization or classification for holding corporation and holding companies. Okay, if a corporation has a sector B, also I think better we go for diagram later on. Conglomerate, families of corporation. This is basically a terminology being used by the business entity, business community. Multinational corporation, which include corporation in many different countries. Again, if you following the recent engagement of SNA 2025, basically now currently we are talking about multinational corporation, the impact of the GDP calculation, the impact of the economies as well. Auxiliary corporation fully owned by parent corporation, and its function is to provide services to the parent corporation or other auxiliary corporation owned by the parent corporation. So basically, auxiliary corporation is treated as an integral part of the parent corporation. So basically, if you are not separating this entity from your corporation, it's still considered as part of the parent corporation. So to summarize the thing, I think it's better to see this diagram. Basically, holding corporation will have these facilities. Corporation enterprise management unit. So in the downline we have corporation enterprises, management unit, and accounting unit. This is more on the auxiliary. So activity unit, establishment, activity unit, and also in terms of corporation, management unit, accounting unit, and other as well. So in terms of level of categorization, this is important to have this understanding. Basically, for those who are, let's say for Malaysia, we're still canvassing information at the establishment unit because we're conceptually adopting this one in our calculation of GDP and our economic statistic. So much developed country, I think European and other side like America, United States of America, they are now when the statistical system towards more on advantaging from the income flow, I think they are more towards the statistical corporation by corporation rather than establishment. Okay, because in terms of transaction of income, basically we are more interested on the property income and also financial asset. Okay, we can say that corporation with connectivity in one location, basically this is concept of establishment, one economic unit in one corporation. And furthermore, one corporation with several economic activity units, horizontally integrated enterprises. We can see from the, this is more on the basic concept, how we can treat the account. So depending on the availability of data, basically, we can decide depending on your capacity whether you wanted to covering at the head office, department store, or at the economic activity unit. So basically, this is very important concept. But however, I'm not going to dwell it further. But basically, the complexity is that we need to know the most available unit that can provide information on its economic activity. So yeah, quite tough to have this one in the most ideal way of getting data. But however, I believe that every country have their own specific interest, their own specific advantage about doing this thing. So it's just a basic recommendation. One, corporation with several economic activity unit. So basically, this one, for let's say we have a multiple activity in unit in a certain corporation. So we have to really identify which economic activity we wanted to canvas, right? So this is another form of corporation, vertically integrated corporation. And quasi corporation, which is quite in terms of the complexity, the quasi corporation is defined as uncooperative enterprise that function as if it were a corporation. So simply because uncooperative corporation we have some certain characteristic, and it can be classified according to resident and non-resident as well. And also in terms of other legal status that appears in the economy, basically we have some categorization of it. Some we can classify according to its function as a cooperative, limited liberty partnership, and then unincorporated enterprise owned by the government. So basically, I believe not every country has these facilities, but however, for quite advanced countries, I think you do have this kind of formation in your economy. So cooperative said they are getting fees from the members, and they are basically regulated by certain law. And I believe the cooperative much more the purpose of the establishment is basically to serve its members. And limited liability partnership basically appeared to be applied by the professional, like a dentist, professional consultant, engineers, and so on. So simply because of the nature of the activity. Okay. Unincorporated enterprise or partnership owned by household which are operated like they are privately owned corporation. This belong to household unincorporated. And unincorporated enterprise which belong to institutional resident abroad, permanent branches. So again, this is related to the concept of below payment. A full set of account must exist for unincorporated enterprise to be classified as quasi corporation. So this is one of the recommended action that needs to be taken for the compilers, and treated as a separate institution unit from its owner. So if we have some details, we have some disaggregated numbers. So and then later on we can treat it as a separate institution unit from its owner. Right. In the quasi corporation also, we have to take note about withdrawal of income from quasi corporation is treated like dividend of corporation in balance sheet. Basically, for those who experience doing the balance sheet, I think this will apply. So Malaysia, in the case of Malaysia, we're still developing the way of compiling this statistic. Okay, non-financial basically produce good and non-financial services. This one is our major concern about financial corporation, produce financial services. So non-financial corporation basically in terms of categorization, we have a public corporation, mixed enterprises, large unincorporated government units. So basically they are separated from the government. Let's say they have appointed certain governing units. Non-private, non-financial corporation, national private non-financial corporation, basically incorporated by certain law. Large partnership, unincorporated and non-profit institutions serving businesses. Foreign controlled non-financial corporation, basically subsidiary, they set up a subsidiary in the economy of interest. And then it can be in the form of branches, corporation, or controlled by the non-resident. So we believe in terms of the financial sector, we have this very normal for banking sector and financial intimidation. You may form certain entity in the respective economic boundary. Financial corporation can be divided into three broad categories. So we have financial intermediaries, financial auxiliaries, and other financial corporation. This is related to IC revision 4. Sorry. So basically in the SNA, this categorization will be using in another few set of manual and handbooks. So basically, we have to understand the characteristic of these financial intermediaries and financial and other financial corporation as well. So in terms of the main activity for these financial intermediaries, basically they engage in engage in activity that incur liabilities on their own account for the purpose of acquiring financial asset by engaging in financial transaction on the market. So basically, they are doing the lending and borrowing things. So get some fund from lending from the borrowing activity and lending it to for those immediate for that services. Financial auxiliary basically related to financial market, and basically they are engaged in the form of the fees and commission. And they are not transacting their own financial asset and liability, but rather than they are transacted it on behalf of others. And other financial corporations are institutional unit that providing financial services where most of their assets and liabilities are not available to open financial market. So basically, this is some of industry that being created to serve certain community and for the specific purpose. Then I think this is tailored made for certain purposes rather than it's open to everyone. And in terms of the entities, we have a central bank. Of course, every country have their own central bank, and basically they are included in the financial corporation. Other depository corporation, deposit money corporation. We have a public, national, private, and foreign control. Okay, and then other depository corporation except DMC, we have a public, national, we have a public and national and foreign control entities, right? And other financial intermediaries as insurance, corporation, and pension funds, we have public, national, private, and foreign control as well. Same goes to financial auxiliaries and insurance corporation and pension fund. So basically, for those quite advanced in terms of the financial sector for your own country, I think you have a full-fledged of services offered to the community, offered to business, offered to the household. I think you will be going to have this all kind of setup or kind of activity in your country. General government, I think it's common. Everyone understand it clearly about the characteristic of general government. It's basically created by a political process, engaged in non-market production. So basically, most of the time, general government, in terms of providing a services, they will be very minimal charge to the users. However, in terms of calculation of general government below that, it's always used as a cost approach. Providing non-market goods and services to household, collective, individual. So let's say you are providing some security, education, and so on. Also environmental conservation. So we have to clarify according to prescription of function of government or COFOC. Distribute and redistribute income and wealth through taxation. So this is one of the main function of the government. Provide social security, in terms of security and so on. You are providing some aids to household during the turbulence, during the pandemic. You're giving a free vaccine, let's say. You're giving food, shelters, and so on. Manage other resources of the country through various policies. And we can see from this is the main function of the government. In terms of level of government, we can have the central, state government, local government, social security fund. So we have a central, state, and local bodies as well. Government non-profit institution. And non-profit institution basically still regulated by a certain law. It should be legal or social entities created to produce non-market goods and services, not a source of income, profit, or any financial gains for the units that established for created them. And depending on the law or specific regulatory arrangement in your countries, it was created for various purposes, let's say to provide services for the benefit of social unit or person that finance them, charitable or philanthropic welfare reasons, health and education services, and promote interest of pressure group. Okay. And then we go on into the extension of the non-profit institution description. It's basically engaged in non-market production. So basically mainly controlled and financed by the government, NPI serving household. So let's say for religious, political, charity, and so on. Market NPI serving business enterprise. So basically for association of banking, let's say for instance, and others. So let's say manufacturers or association of manufacturers, association of certain services like accommodation services, tourism activities, and so on. So they may create their own NPI to serve the community. Okay. Again, they are legal, so they are not permitted to create income, profit or financial gain to for those who control and finance them. Basically, it's more on the charity and basically serving at the minimal cost. As I said, it can be NPI who serve households and produce non-market goods and services without charges, or whose prices are economically insignificant. So, and by convention, and if NPIs are controlled or 50% of their costs are paid by the corporate or general government sector, they should be classified respectively to those two. So we can classify these NPIs as a government controlled NPIs, and it's not belong to the household, depending on the decision and depending on the structure of the decision making of the NPI. Borderline cases is not comprehensive, but however, this is one of the borderline cases that being brought by the SNA. Non-financial or financial corporation engaged in the financial leasing should be classified in the financial corporation. So for those who are familiar with financial leasing, the ownership still belong to the for those who purchase the asset or purchase the certain goods of to the purpose of usage for the purpose of the benefit of this corporation. Non-financial corporation or household, unincorporated enterprise or household, if they maintain a complete set of accounts, should be transferred to non-financial corporation sector. So let's say this one, the main characteristic that allow certain entities to be considered as a non-financial corporation or household is that they don't have a perfect account. However, once they have a complete set of account, they can, with the fullest consideration by NSO, can be categorized as a non-financial corporation sector. And general government or financial corporation, all government unit engaged in financial intervention must be classified in financial corporation, because it is in line with the guideline or manuals by the IMF, and they need to provide full set of accounts separately from those government. I believe some of the government may wanted to set up a certain entity that being purposely established to produce financial intervention activities. Financial corporation or household. So if they are engaged in financial activities such financial intervention, money changing or investment services, they are able to provide a complete set, they should be included in financial corporation sector. So money lenders, I think this some of the developing countries, these money lenders make a big portion instead of the formal activities like banking system. And financial corporation or rest of the world, offshore banks, output of this activity is part of the output of the country within the whose economic territory production takes place. So let's say in the case of Malaysia, we have offshore bank situated in one of our island. So this is part of the output that belongs to Malaysia, rather than output belongs to the rest of the world. Also, or rest of the world, cross-border workers, resident is assigned to the basis of where the principal dwelling exists and do not where the productivity takes place. Okay, so depending on where the dwelling exists. So we have been discussed this one previously. Long-term foreign workers, 1 year rule is applied. So again, this is our friend from Pakistan and Uzbekistan asked this question before. So this is one of the explanation. Diplomat and military personnel in foreign control bases remain resident of the home country regardless of how long they stayed abroad. So let's say we're sending our diplomat and trade or military personnel. So Malaysia, let's say Malaysia have a military personnel that attached to Lebanon, let's say. So they are still remain resident of Malaysia rather than Lebanon or that respective countries. they are touched for. Non-financial corporation, general government or NFISH unit providing public sector services to stage a decision whether or not they are producing in the market depending on the economic significant prices, whether or not they can cover 50% of production costs. So let's say rail and bus transport, radio and activity. So I think quite a number of countries still sponsoring or providing production costs or supporting the production of these goods and services. If they are non-profit institution, do they belong in general government sector or NFISH? Control and financing will be really helpful if you have a quite detailed statistic in terms of the control and financing data. And then non-financial corporation or rest of the world, construction work abroad, if site office subsidiary is established, non-financial corporation sector or the country where the work is carried out. If not, the value of construction is imported or of services. So basically, let's say you have a certain commitment in terms of construction activity. So this explanation will guide you how to categorize that transaction. So it's very much depending on the companies or unit that being established for the location that the construction work had been carried out. Mobile equipment, aircraft, ship, drilling and platform. Again, for those who are engaged in petroleum activities, natural gas, and so on. So if it is used in internal water or airplanes, the activity is attributed to the country or petrol residents. If the equipment is used in another country for more than 12 months, the enterprise has a central economic in that country. So it no longer belong the home country. Specialized zone, custom tax or labor special regime. I think this one is clear cut because of production that takes place in this the domestic it is domestic in nature and units belong to the non-financial corporation sector. Okay, I think we're about to end this slide. So perhaps we can open it for any Q&A session.
Yes, there is one question from Pakistan from Dr. Muhammad Rashid. He asked, please give one example of financial auxiliary corporation.
Oh, this one basically in the case of Malaysia, we have stockbroking activities, and then money lenders. What more, Aida? Can we share with us, Fahmi? Maybe Fahmi can help us. Example of financial auxiliary corporation. As I said, managing the capital market. So we have some stock brokerage activity, and then money lenders. Anything more, Aida? Dengan Fahmi, please respond.
Another one maybe the unit trust activities.
Yeah, unit trust. Any is there any Fahmi? What?
Pawn shop.
Yeah, pawn shop. Yeah, pawn shop activity. Is that sufficient?
Yeah, Dr. Muhammad Rashid, is it answer your question?
Is it answer your question? Yeah. So pawn shop is common. Pawn shop is common. Unit trust not very common, depending on the complexity of the or how advanced your financial market is. And another one about the stockbroking activity, from here. If you have a very solid or robust financial market, and this is huge economic activity, so perhaps you may have one. Rather than that, it's very much attached to your local experience, your country's experience. So not many countries have a very complex financial sector activity. So if you have that one, I think you have to categorize it accordingly. Okay, thank you, Dr. Muhammad.
Yes, it's answer his
Thank you very
question.
much.
Is there anyone would like to pose a question for the second presentation of Mr. Kasim?
I think for today's session, we only have two.
Yeah.
Another one will be continued tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, Mr. Fahmi will be making the presentation for tomorrow about FISM.
We will do it together actually tomorrow.
Oh, okay, so you will be also joining for tomorrow's session.
All of us
Okay,
actually.
noted.
We
And
are
also,
three of us will be together in terms of giving at most at the very best of our experience to the next session.
okay, that's great. So, is there anyone who would like to pose a question to Malaysians experts, especially to Mr. Kazim for today's session? I think people are.
We have a friend from Qatar. Qatar is quite advanced in terms of financial market. They are leading in terms of in terms of financial asset. They are among the top in the world, I think, Qatar and Bahrain.
Maybe colleagues from Qatar would like to share their experience in their institutions. Colleagues from Qatar.
Anyone from Qatar?
Yeah, there are many colleagues from Qatar joining the training, but they're a little bit quiet today. So
It's okay.
yes, I'm checking the chat box again, but nobody's posing question. And if not, it's a little bit earlier than the schedule because we still have 45 minutes for today's session. If there is no question, maybe we can wait for another 2 minutes, Mr. Kasim. Is it okay for you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if not, okay. So from Dr. Rashid again, what is status of mutual funds?
Mutual fund. This is regarding the financial sector or insurance, Dr. Muhammad Rashid. In what sector you are referring to?
Dr. Muhammad Rashid, could you please unmute yourself and then pose directly the question to Mr. Kasim, if possible?
Yes, well,
okay.
Are you listening me?
Yeah, very well.
Okay. I was asking, I was interested in the sense that in which category of financial auxiliary status the mutual funds are really falling. Because as per the discussion going on, if it is a financial auxiliary, it is managed and assisting to somebody as some other financial institute. So if the mutual fund industry is being managed, mutual funds are managed by a holding company or mutual fund asset management company, would it fall in the category of financial auxiliary, or we should fall in some other place, put in other place, if it may be clarified?
Okay. So from our experience, we classify it as a unit trust here. So in other words, it's a mutual fund because basically you have let's say household have a surplus or a business entity have surplus on income. They are investing it into another kind of financial asset. Let's say for unit trust. Let's say so they are investing it into the units, and then we have companies that managing the fund. So basically, there are two kind of activities here. First, the management unit of this fund. So basically, in the case of Malaysia, we categorize it the category as a unit fund by itself. So in terms of the output, we are calculating the net asset value, and in terms of the cost or commission being paid by the holders. So basically, it fall under category financial auxiliary activity. And in terms of output, we are measuring the commission and also the net asset value that being accumulated by this fund. So basically, yes, that's the practice being adopted by Malaysia currently.
Excuse me.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Excuse me. The management of the mutual funds is classified under financial auxiliaries.
Yeah.
However, yes, the management, those who are managing mutual funds, they are classified under financial auxiliaries according to SNA 2008, para 4.11.
Okay.
However, the Dr. Rashid Mohammed asked about the mutual funds, where mutual funds are classified in the K series. In the K series, like we classified the whole financial sector in some let me wait a little. Let me open my file. Let me wait a little.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's a bit complex issue actually.
Yes. Wait. Like central banking, financial leasing, other credit granting,
yep,
insurance, reinsurance, pension funding, except compulsory social securities, activities auxiliaries to financial service activities and insurance activities. And yes, the management of the mutual funds will be classified under 66 activities auxiliary to financial service activities and insurance activities. The question is that where we classify mutual funds. If mutual fund have some output, then where we will classify it?
So basically, in terms of production account, we are more interested on the entity rather than the fund itself. So however, in terms of calculating the output, we know that there's another set of account that being recording this transaction actually. So basically, in terms of for up to my knowledge, basically we are now currently in Malaysia only conversing the management companies that managing the fund. However, in terms of the fund itself, I think we can basically foresee it in the financial account. So basically in the financial account, we are dealing about the asset and liability and also the flow of interest and so on. So basically in terms of output, basically this management of the mutual fund, basically they are charging commission for their service, charging certain percent of charge or commission by handling this fund. So that's the output is because we could not compute this mutual fund in terms of VC because they are not intermediary any transaction. So they are more on the margin side. So basically the management, basically we are measuring it according to the output, which is commission based rather than interest based.
Okay.
However, we can check it later with our friend for other institution as well, Mr. Dr. Muhammad and Mr. Tahir. Good question for all actually.
Okay.
I perhaps may not answering for your question, but basically I'm sharing about the practice of Malaysia currently.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Your practice for sharing the practice, but my real enthusiasm was more in the sense that there is no doubt mutual funds do exist in the financial market.
Yeah.
But I got an intuition from your talk that mutual fund output is not in the form of services, but the consideration is the mutual fund management companies output against the services is considered. Do the mutual fund do not have a status as an entity in the financial market, number one. If we agree on the mutual fund has its status of a legal financial entity, and every financial entity has a purpose, and the purpose is profit maximization, or getting the profit, or return, or increase the net asset value.
Yep.
Along with that, mutual fund also remain involved in diversification through the portfolio management by the fund manager. If the gain attained by the mutual fund is not particularly specific to interest and specific to share value or dividend, because they are also involved in other financial securities, their investment do exist. So even then, we will have same consideration. I hope I have conveyed my question properly.
Yeah, I understand it. From my knowledge, basically, yeah. But in terms of every single fund or every single financial instrument have a right or being established according to the certain law, certain regulation. And then I do agree with you that this financial instrument basically with the purpose of having to profit maximization to the holders, basically in terms of dividend and or interest. So I'm talking about the side of managing this fund. Basically, we are taking into consideration that who is managing the fund actually. So in terms of output from the management side, they are charging certain fees for the holders when we do transaction. So this normally in terms of percentage in terms of percentage with the asset value and so on. So in terms of covering the output for the entities, establishment or corporate units, I think we are clearly tell you that we are covering from the management side, we are covering the fees and commission basis by the management fund. However, in terms of the mutual fund, I think it's not categorized under the productivity under this ISIC. However, we need to check back about the other sequence of account that may appear declaration of the mutual fund in the financial sector. So at the moment, that's my explanation to that question that been raised by Dr. Muhammad. I'll be back to you after all.
Okay. If you allow me, we shall postpone the answer of this question till the discussion of FISM and thereon. Tomorrow.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yes, session about FISM will be explained tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you for posting the very very
interesting question.
Interesting question.
Yeah. So, is there any other colleagues who would like to pose question?
Sometimes the terminology is different between the countries. Maybe we are quite confused about the terminology.
Yes, you're
this
right.
country maybe more common for this country, but other countries they are naming it as for a different name actually.
Yes, you're right. So I'm checking the chat box now.
So I think we can conclude for the today's session, Shanti, because basically, yeah, I think we have a time difference quite big among the countries, but this is the most comfort time to match between the Malaysia and our audience here there in various countries.
Understand. Yeah, we understand it's quite late now in Malaysia. So, and this is the convenient time, even though we have colleagues from Suriname joined us. But
what's the time in Suriname now?
he joined at 5 a.m. in Suriname, so I was a little bit
Oh
surprised.
my.
But he already left. Maybe he needs to go to office or do some
I
work.
see,
I'm not sure. But
Thank you very much for joining
yes,
this
it's
session,
very,
Mr.
yeah.
Omar Herkul.
Yeah. So thank you very yes. Oh, he's still here, Mr. Omar Herkul. So thank you very much, Mr. Yazid Kasim, for today's session, and we are very pleased with your explanation and answers to the questions. And we will be continuing our training tomorrow at the same time. And please kindly join it. We will be accepting the participants to log into the Zoom 15 minutes before the training starts. So we will, I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to everyone. Stay safe.
You too.